Hello and welcome back to Play of the Game, the Magic the Gathering Limited podcast where we actually play the games. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Jason.
And today we have a spot from the Spotlight series, this time the actual team sealed portion of the Spotlight series. We think we're going to be recording the episode we just recorded with Mora before this one.
Releasing.
Yeah.
we did record it before
We just
this one.
did record it.
Yeah.
But we have a simpler spot for you guys this time, but still a very
After
interesting
last
one.
week's doozy.
Last week was a doozy, but I honestly think it was one of the best spots we've ever talked about. It's really, really good. I'm looking forward to people seeing that one. Also looking forward to this one.
Yeah.
So, I guess just to remind everyone how the podcast works very quickly, we talk about a single spot, decision, gameplay point in a game of Magic Limited. And normally we are going to link out to a 17 lands log in the description of the podcast, and you can go follow that log and, look at the game state. In this case, we're going to be linking out to this lovely image that we have, which was taken the night after the day one of the Spotlight, where we were kind of reminiscing, reviewing kind of decisions we had made and how we built our pool and all that good stuff, while eating some lovely dinner cooked by Jason. Some chicken tikka masala.
The obvious answer here is to eat the chicken tikka masala. And
Yes.
we solved
trivial.
it. What's the second best
solution.
play, though?
Yeah. If you're also playing a game of Magic, then maybe what do you do in that as well after you've eaten some dinner? So, Jason, do you want to break down this decision for us?
Yeah, okay, so this is game 2. So to give some context, this is team sealed. This is the deck I'm playing. I'm in the middle seat, so I'm seat B. I'm playing a blue-white deck that's mostly like some good creatures, some good like common and uncommon creatures, flyers. It's a little low on removal. The removal is like basically like 2 copies of Supervillain Lockup and 1 copy of Frozen Ice. Here's Supervillain Lockup. And so it's like a little low removal. It doesn't have anything that's like super bomby, but it has like a lot of like good rate flyers and such. Like it has 3 copies of Shield Deployment Trend, for example. This is a game where I have drawn my probably the best card in my deck, which is Political Triumph, specifically on turn 1. This is game 2 against a blue-green opponent. I think maybe game 3 against a blue-green opponent, because I believe I won game 1 and lost game 2, and this is game 3. So I've seen their deck. Their deck also seems kind of medium. They have a Bruce banner. They don't seem to have a way to flip it, but like they can draw that. They can draw a bunch of cards with. I believe they have an Absorbing Man. I also have an Absorbing Man that I'm splashing, by the way.
We had seen the 1/1 flyer with power up that can...
Yeah, kind of medium. Their deck is just like a bunch of like creatures. I know they have like multiple copies of Pet Avengers from like game 2. They played a bunch of those. Nothing that stands out that much, basically. Yeah. I'm on the play because I lost game 2, and I played turn 1 Political Triumph, and I have now played a turn 2 Bold Biochemist. Now, I kept 7 on the play, so I have 4 cards left in hand. My opponent just has an island in play. They're not doing anything this turn.
I think, roughly from the summary you just gave, we think this spot, it's okay to basically just assume you're playing against generic limited deck.
Yeah, they're playing a generic blue-green deck. We haven't seen anything, super impactful. So... The main thing about this spot is that we've played our 2-drop, our Bold Biochemist, and our hand is kind of stacked. We have a Shield Deployment Drone, which is very good with Political Triumph because it triggers it twice and gets it very quickly to
gives you another
going off. Yeah, we have another 3-drop flyer in Justice. That's the flying Mana War that can't bounce tokens, but it's a flying Mana War. We have a Take Up the Shield, and we have a Falcon Winged Wonder. That's the slightly covered card. That's the 5-mana 3/4 flyer that enters with another 1/1. So the problem is this hand does not have a 3rd land. And now we are scrying off this Bold Biochemist to try to find the land, and the card we see that is on top of our library is almost a land.
Almost.
It is the copy of AIM Scientists I have put in my deck. Now, my deck is a 17-land deck. I have chosen to play 17 lands plus this AIM Scientists. I have no tap lands in the deck. I do have, I believe I have, an Avengers, or...
You have Baxter Building and the Surveillance.
Yeah, Baxter Building and the Surveillance. That's what it was. Like I have those two plus a basic forest as my 3 sources plus this 1 aim scientist. So 4 for my 1 absorbing man. That's the only card I'm splashing. So yeah, this aim scientist is maybe, like after we cycle it, it becomes a forest probably, which is better than most lands. Our mana requirements are pretty late.
We don't have that many double blue or double white. I
Yeah,
don't remember.
I think I do not believe my deck has any double blue or double white, so it's pretty safe to get a forest in this spot. But either way, like this aim scientist on top, obviously, it can find our splash. It's not that relevant yet, but it's maybe a little nice. But of course, it is a very tapped land. If we cycle it next turn, we cannot play any of our spells.
A very tapped land is a good way of putting it.
Yeah, like you know how there's like the
Rupture Spire.
It's Rupture Spire, but costs even 1 more, kind of.
Yeah.
It taps both of our lands.
Yeah.
So obviously the decision here is, do we keep this on top or do we put this at the bottom? So yeah,
that is the decision, and this was actually a spot that Jason, in the moment, tapped me on the shoulder and showed me and asked me, as we're playing, this is the joy of Team Sealed, is you can give advice to your teammates.
The pitfall of Team Sealed, as we'll get to in a second.
And so I was looking over and just kind of seeing this, not really knowing what had happened in game 1 and 2, seeing Jason's hand, seeing the top of the deck, and trying to make a decision on what should you do here.
Yeah, I believe Mora at the time was like more occupied with their match, so like I did not want to disturb her. So I was like, oh, you look like you're shuffling up in between games.
And so I looked over and I saw, okay, we would have to time walk ourselves to get this land in play. We're playing a pretty tempo-based deck. We, have flyers. We're trying to race our opponent with these flyers. We don't really have ways to like win in terms of overall board impact or cards in the long game exactly. And so I was pretty concerned with the idea that we would basically be skipping our turn 3 and then on turn 4 casting a 3-drop and hoping that was good enough. I kind of in the moment instinctually was like, bottom it, like we just need to get lucky and hit a land here. You could also think about topping it. I think it's like very reasonable. I was not super sure in the moment. I think I said something like, I think I would just bottom it or whatever. But yeah, like I think one of the best ways to frame this that we came up with afterwards is keeping the aim scientists on top is a little bit like guaranteeing that the second card from the top is a land here, if you think about it that way. Because,
kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So we can talk about the two situations. Obviously, if you keep the aim scientist on top, it's very consistent that you know exactly what's going to happen next turn. You're going to cycle it, play a land, and then the turn after that, you're going to play your shield deployment turn.
Yeah.
Very consistent. We know what happens there. If you put it on the bottom, obviously, if the top card is a land, you're very happy.
Yeah.
Because then
much better situation.
Yeah. You just get to play your shield deployment turn immediately. You get to scry twice, which will probably find you another land. It's probably pretty good for finding you another land, and like
we do want more lands because we have this 5-drop in our hand
and a 6-drop on the battlefield. Drawing 2 cards with Bold Bite came up a lot with this deck. It was very good.
Yeah.
So obviously the top card's land is quite good. Now let's say the top card isn't a land. Well, it could either be another card that costs 3 or more, or it could be a card that costs 2 or less that we could cast. Obviously, a creature would be the best case for the card that costs 2 or less, but other things could be good too. For context, the only cards we have left that cost 2 or less in this deck are one other Bold Biochemist, one Agent of Atlas, that's the 2/2 for 2 with Prowess, one Shield Spy Kit, which we could then equip to our Biochemist and scry towards a land.
All 3 of those let us scry.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. We also have I don't have it physically with me, but an Agent Nick Fury, Nick Fury, Agent of Fury, I don't know what it's called. The legendary Savannah Lions that I'm playing entirely to be a legendary Savannah Lions. I never activated it with Baxter Building, though that was technically something that was possible in this deck. But yeah, that would be another thing that costs 2 or less that we could play. It would scry as well. And then finally, we have 2 copies of Supervillain Lockup, which is a removal spell that only removes tapped creatures, basically.
So not super relevant here. We wouldn't really be able to cast it next turn unless our opponent, I don't know, played Hellcat or something on turn 2.
Well, no, they could play a 2-drop and then attack with a 2-drop, and then
Sure, and then we could on their turn do it.
Yeah, but like
it would affect the board, but it would be a like poor use of removal spell most likely if it's on a 2-drop.
Yeah.
That one is not super relevant. So we have like 4 live cards if we don't hit a land next turn. That could be a spell that we could actually
So
cast.
we can even add this up to like, okay, so right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We've seen 9 of our cards, so there's 31 left. And so 4 non-lands that we're like happy-ish with, and it's 15 lands, so like 19. Right? We're up to like 19 cards that could be on top that are pretty good, and that's like, 19 out of 31 is like 60% maybe. Yeah, about 60%.
To hit something that we're reasonably happy with because it will affect the board and let us scry to hit another land.
Yeah. Yes. So 60%
That's pretty
is
good.
pretty good. Now let's say we get the 40% where we miss.
Yeah, which is a lot. 40% is a lot.
Then the next turn, if we hit a land, then that's kind of like Ryan was saying, that's kind of like as if we had kept the aim scientist on top and cycled it. It's a little worse because we can't draw. We don't have the ability, if we keep the aim scientist on top and we cycle it, then we could hit our 4th land the next turn as well. Whereas in this case, on 2 turns from now, we still only have 3 lands in play, not 4. But it's somewhat similar.
Somewhat equivalent in that on turn 4 we have 3 lands in play and a random card in hand.
Yes.
And in one scenario, that card could be a land and we could play it. In the other scenario, it could be a land and we wouldn't be able to play it. But otherwise, it's
it can't be a land because the random card is the card that we drew on turn 3, and in this scenario we can't.
Yes.
Yeah. But basically it makes it less like it's kind of like the aim scientist scenario, except we can't have 4 lands, but we play our shield deployment drone on a similar turn, right? Yeah. So, we can think about, okay, what's the chance that there's a land in our top 2, right? And I would say that probably drawing a 2-drop as our in 2 turns is not great. It's okay if we draw it next turn. 2 turns from now is a little anemic.
Yeah. If we're not hitting our 3rd land drop, whatever we're doing to affect the board is not going to be enough to really keep up in the game, most likely.
Yeah,
and also it's really important that we're building our land drops towards our 5-drop and our 6-drop, right?
Yeah.
If we're not doing that, even if we continue to draw lands, we're still going to be doing, at best, kind of tied impactful things with what our opponent is doing, and we need to hit runner lands to even get to our 5 and 6, and at that point we might be behind on board. It's getting tough. We're falling behind.
Yeah. So apparently these 2 weeks are very mathy because let's say we're 60% to hit a card we're happy about on the first draw, and then if we don't hit that, then so that's a 40% fail case. Then the next one is roughly a 50%, a 50-50, right? Because now we're 15 lands out of 30 cards. So, let's say now we have a 20% really bad fail case, right? So we have a 40% kind of bad fail case, a 20% really bad fail case.
Yeah.
And so that's roughly the calculation, right? And we can think of what if we keep not hitting lands, but I feel like we've already covered that with the 20% is really, really bad fail case.
And then if you keep the aim scientists, you're sort of locking yourself into the better part of the 40%, but even a little bit better than that because you could draw a land after that and then have 4 lands in play.
Yeah,
that's kind of what we're saying. So we're basically we're better than the better half of the 40%, but we're worse than the good 60.
Yeah.
So we're really in the 50% scenario.
Well, a little bit, but okay. So these are all numbers, and I'm going to do a little bit of bait and switch here because we spent a lot of time talking about numbers here, and I'm here to tell you that the numbers don't matter, or at least the numbers are not the correct way to think about this. And so it's easy to think to start thinking oh yeah, what's the percentage chance that I hit? And it's 80% is pretty good, right? 80% to not get screwed over and to do kind of the same as the aim scientist or better is pretty good, yeah. And there's huge upside if we hit our 60% to hit a land or a nice spell, right?
This is all under the framework of what scenarios are good for us in the abstract of how much are we progressing our game of Magic forward, right? But that's not technically the precise percentage that we care about in a game of Magic. We don't care about what likelihood is it for our deck to function. We care about what likelihood is it for our deck to win the game.
Yes. And the answer I eventually came to, a little bit of spoilers, maybe we're moving maybe a little bit fast, but it's fine. The answer I eventually came to, so I showed Ryan my hand, I showed Ryan my scry, I'm like, would you top or bottom here? And then Ryan took some time to answer. Between me asking and Ryan answering, I resolved that I was going to keep it on top. And the reason I came to no matter what Ryan said, and the reason I came to this answer was I realized that I was pretty confident that if I kept this aim scientist on top and I cycled it, I would win the game. I was pretty confident that as long as I hit my third land drop by the time of cycling the aim scientist, the political triumph would put me far enough ahead of what I expect my opponent to be doing with this hand also, right? I have I have the shield deployment drone, and then the turn after that I can guaranteed trigger the political triumph with justice. If I go runner land after the aim scientist, also I can play my 5-drop and get 5 counters on things, not just 4 counters on things. Yeah. And I have this Mana War to tempo. I have this Take of the Shield to as a trick.
Your hand is very good. If you have lands.
Basically, I think that if I hit my land, as long as I hit my land, I will win this game. I haven't seen anything from my opponent that's I haven't seen a superhero civil war or something that's going to blow me out. I haven't seen anything from my opponent that looks like it's going to be able to.
You've played 2 games against this deck, and it's been a fine limited deck that kind of plays creatures, doesn't play any super engines or any.
Yeah, they have some efficient removal go nuts and such, but there's nothing that's super over that would go that much over the top of just playing a wide board of very well-statted creatures that got counters from Political Triumph, and I drew an extra card from Political Triumph.
Yeah. And so this is the kind of vibesy feeling that can really matter for spots like this, where you've played 2 games against your opponent's deck, you kind of have an understanding of the type of game of Magic it's going to play, how much material it can put out, how fast, how much it can interact with what you're doing, what kinds of things it can interact with, etc. And you've played your deck for now, was this round 4, I think? You've played it for 3 rounds? Something like that. And you have a sense that when you lead on a turn 1 Political Triumph and end up, popping it for 4 counters or something in the first couple turns, you are pretty likely to win that game.
Yeah.
Your deck is extremely good when you sequence these things in such a way that you get this amount of board impact this early. So those kinds of softer, I just kind of feel like I'm in a good spot if my deck works at all this game, is a really big input to this kind of decision, where instead of just figuring out what is the highest % chance we can give our deck to do really well, what we actually might want to say is what is the highest % chance we can give our deck to baseline function at all,
because do well enough to win.
Yeah, do well enough to win, exactly.
Right.
How much do we believe that we can, if we play of the game, sorry, we are going to win or going to be high percentage to win.
Yeah, basically, fundamentally,
you're weighting the scenarios differently, basically.
Yeah, the problem with the pure, what's the chance that I do better than this aim scientist thing is that doing better than the aim scientist, my conclusion after, between showing Ryan the hand and Ryan answering was, wait, I don't care about doing better than the aim scientists. It's not just a question of, how likely is it to do better than, the aim scientists here. The question is, how likely is it, and how much do I get paid off for doing so?
How likely is it to have mattered that you needed to do better because your opponent had a really strong draw and you needed to be super smooth and curve out and perfect to beat them?
Yeah, basically, if I were to put a number to it, right, maybe immediately drawing a land instead of aim scientist would maybe give me plus 5 percentage points in the game over drawing the aim scientist. But and I have a 60% chance to add those 5 percentage points. So like I've gained like 3 percentage points overall. But then if I if I hit the 20% fail case, that's like a minus 70 percentage points, because I think I'm like 70% to win and then I'm like 0% to win if I well, it's not exactly that drastic, but like exaggerating for effect, right? 20% of 70 is a lot higher than 60% of 5, right?
And to be clear, that 5% I believe is extremely low, because you're estimating that you're so likely to win if you do end up, if your hand works.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that 5% is specifically talking about the difference between functioning perfectly and functioning okay.
Yeah.
And that only being 5% is an indicator of Jason being very confident that its deck and hand is well positioned to win, even if it just functions okay.
Yeah.
If you thought that delta mattered a lot more, I think it would be pretty reasonable to give a 20% difference in win rate comparing normal functioning to like good, actively good.
Yeah, like if I think that my opponent has like some like really unbeatable bombs that I need to like race against, like I've seen them have like a superhero Civil War or something, right?
Or if their deck is just like full of strong, efficient stuff. Right?
Yeah,
like if their deck is just stream and smooth lined and good, then you might streamlined and smooth.
Yeah, like if I think that if I think that like keeping this aim scientist on top, I have like only like a 50 or 55% chance of winning, but like if I hit a land immediately, I'm like now like 75%. That like you could imagine there being situation decks that you play against that like it might actually be that like 20 percentage points of difference, and then now you're looking at like, oh well, I have a like 60% chance of doing like 20 percentage points better, and like if I miss like I have a 20% chance of doing like you'd have to do like 60 percentage points worse in order to like balance that out on the other end. And that's like I was exaggerating before. It's not actually 70% in this spot, but like that's a lot, right? Yeah. So like
and I think it's interesting that like last week, right, we broke down a very complicated board state that had a lot of calculations involved in, could you find the deterministic win? Could you, what percentage were you to win if you didn't get that but put yourself in a very good situation, whatever, right? And there's so much information, so much harder to kind of calculate all of it. But we kind of decided that ultimately the right way to go about the decision we made last week, was to really try to do as much calculation as you can given the time you have, and try to pick, based on your vibes and your like napkin math calculations, which percentage to win the game is higher. In this spot, I kind of think that we're saying that like it's much easier to calculate the actual numbers on what is my likelihood to hit a land versus hit 2 spells in a row or whatever, versus like guaranteed land second from the top, which is sort of like the option we have to lock into something close to that right now. That's easy to calculate, right? You can get there pretty quickly. You can at least estimate it pretty accurately in the moment. But we think that is not the correct information to focus on in this situation necessarily, and it is actually more important to do a general vibe check on, can my hand easily win this game if it functions, and is this like a matchup where I am favored?
Yeah, and I would say the key difference between the spots, last week's episode was an endgame spot. This is the spot at the beginning of the game. And last week's episode, you could do that much calculation, and you could benefit from doing that much calculation, because it's literally like these sets of things immediately end the game and immediately translate to victory or defeat, right? Whereas here it's like, it's not clear exactly what things translate to.
It's the difference between forward engineering and reverse engineering, right? Like, I don't know if forward engineering is a term.
I'm not sure what. I'm not sure exactly what you're getting.
Normal engineering, where in endgame spots, and I talk about this a little bit in my gameplay article, you break rules often because you can think from the end of the game backwards and figure out what sequences of plays will end the game. But in early game spots, you don't know how the game's going to end, and the like tree of decisions that happen between now and the game ending is just impossible to calculate. You don't know what's in your opponent's hand. There's a lot of hidden information there. Both players are going to have many options as the game progresses forward. Lots of things will happen. You'll draw random cards off of your deck. It's just impossible to calculate. So you can't think backwards from the end of the game. You more have to think about like forwards from here, rough idea, how well is this going for me? Even though we're in a situation where the immediate calculation is easier to do, what is the likelihood that you will hit your third or fourth land drop over the next few turns? It's just, you cannot anchor on that calculation as a way to make the decision for you. You still have to make the soft, difficult evaluation decision about the game of Magic that you're playing.
To be very clear, when I decided I was going to keep it on top, I had done no calculation. I had not thought about, like I showed Ryan the hand, and then I started thinking about, I did not immediately start thinking about, like how likely it was that I would hit my third land on, if I, like, bottomed it. I didn't, the number 50%, the number, I have 15 lands left in my deck, did not even, like, enter my mind, because I was too busy thinking, is it good enough that I keep this on top? Like, am I actually going to win?
And you make thousands of decisions like this in every game of Magic, and you can't calculate even the basic, like, it's a 50%er to hit a land here in most of those decisions, because you're making most of them in 5 seconds. Yeah. Though these are the important ones. Like, you know, you paused and asked me about this one because it was close enough that you thought it was worth asking about. Then you thought about the vibes and decided, okay, I'm confident based on my evaluation of the matchup. That's something that I can't get just leaning over.
Common team sealed advice, L.
Which we've talked about a little bit this weekend, where most of the time you have one of your teammates, inform your decision in a game that you've been playing, in a matchup you've been playing. If it's close enough, and usually the closeness means that it depends on these subtle things about that you've like gathered to your subconscious throughout playing the match. If you're a good enough player who's kind of thinking about these things, like Jason obviously is, it's often like your teammate literally does not have enough subconscious information to make the decision correctly, and you do.
Yeah.
Now, whether you actually do process that information correctly is up to you, but asking your teammate can often be this like false sense of, I'm getting an informed consultant on the case, when really they're not as informed as you, and that really actually truly does matter in games of Limited.
Yeah, this is not to say you should never ask your team sealed teammates for help. Like it is good to do so, especially for like simpler decisions. Like this was a fairly simple decision. I generally bias towards not asking very much, but this was a fairly simple decision. But then I decided that like actually the context I had made it like.
I think the biggest thing that you should know in team sealed is that like it's okay to ask your teammates for help, and it's okay to get their answer, decide, oh, my gut doesn't agree with that, and then make the other play.
Yeah, it's like when you can't make a decision and you're like, okay, I'm going to flip a coin, and then while it's in the air, I'm going to think about which one I would prefer and then choose that option.
Which is a weird, human psychology is weird, but that is a genuinely good decision-making method sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, basically just be very wary when you're asking for and giving advice in a team format that, like, you are the person asking for the advice, the person actually playing the game legitimately has a lot more information than anyone else, and it's not going to be possible to communicate all that information.
Yeah. And it is information that you cannot communicate like discreetly and consciously.
Yeah, and you should keep that in mind both when asking and when answering and when figuring out whether to go with your opponent. With your opponents, with your teammate's decision.
Definitely don't go with your opponent's decision.
Yeah,
that's a bad idea.
But yeah,
I mean, what happened? It's pretty clear, given that like you made the play that kind of guaranteed a certain outcome to happen. But what actually happened?
Well, I mean, what happened was that I kept it on top. I asked Ryan. Ryan said to bottom it. I kept it on top. I drew my aim scientist cycle it for a forest. The next turn, I drew another land. I played my shield deployment drone, scried to find my fifth land. And then on turn 5, I played my falcon. I got one counter on each of my 5 creatures, including 3 flyers. I had a bounce spell and a take up the shield. The game was not close. Like
victory.
my opponent like played a 2-drop and a 3-drop. The game was not close.
And I guess we should mention, given that I don't think we actually said it last week, how did we end up doing?
Unfortunately, the
Spotlight.
fact that I won this match was not relevant because I think Ryan got crushed by the card. Was this a Superhero Civil War?
No, this
Okay.
was the one where my opponent curved Thor, the mighty Thor
okay.
Jane
Yes.
Foster, into
Okay.
Mjolnir.
So a similar kind of thing.
Similar kind of thing. I did not win that match.
Yeah, and
unfortunately.
then Mora lost a very close and intense mirror, like construct a cosmic cube mirror.
And that put us to 2-2, I
Yes.
believe, and then we lost the following round as well.
Yes.
And we were eliminated at 2-3.
Yeah,
with
unfortunate.
a pool that was interesting to build, but probably a little bit under.
Oh yeah, we could maybe link the pool.
Yeah, we probably will. I think I linked it on like some social media posts, but I will also put it in,
Yeah.
I think, the description for maybe both of these episodes,
Yeah.
just so that people can find it.
It was. I think our problem was mostly that I think we built our pool well. I think we played at least decently well. I can think of at least
I
one
definitely
mistake.
made some mistakes. I
Yeah.
don't think I played amazing on the day.
Okay.
But, it's hard.
Yeah. But I think we built our pool pretty well with maybe a couple mistakes. I think our overall direction was good. The problem is our pool just wasn't that good. The main thing about our pool is that some of the most powerful rares in the pool were 2 copies of Constructed Cosmic Cube and 3 copies of Heroic Feast, which are not very consistently powerful
Good
rares.
if you make them work, but they're not that good if you make them work. And those were our best rares.
Yeah, then we had some one-off good rares like Cloak and Dagger and the Absorbing Man, but nothing like super cohesive.
Anyway, that'll be it for this episode. Thank you guys for watching. You can find me at r-condon.bsky.social. And Jason?
You can find me at JasonILTG, and if you want to get better at Limited, read Ryan's Patreon articles, like Paul Green.
Like our Paul Green, yeah, shout out again to Paul Green, who won the Limited Championship qualifier over the weekend. So he is now qualified for the same Limited Pro Tour that you are, Jason.
You will be soon, clearly.
I'm really going to be trying, but I've been trying a lot. It's hard. Limited is hard.
Limited is hard.
Yeah.
Indeed. We're always trying to get better at it.
Yeah.
That's why we have this podcast.
That is why. And hopefully this podcast can let you, until next time, go out and make some good plays. See you next time, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.